episode and the final episode of this NFL season of Head to Head Sports. I'm your host, Brian Parker, along with my wonderful, most consistent co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove. How you doing, sir?
What up, sir? Survived COVID season, a bad cold, hung in there like a trooper.
And you are not lying. You know, I wondered when this season started, was it going to be one of those seasons that you would have to put an asterisk beside it because either it was abbreviated or things had to be done differently because of, you know, the current conditions and everything. And, you know, aside from a few little outbreaks here and there, and, you know, the fact that we didn't have a lot of camp and preseason and stuff like that, which some of the NFL players will tell you they're kind of glad they didn't have too long of a preseason. They don't like preseasons a lot. But for the most part, it was a somewhat regular season in the best sense as far as the play, not necessarily fans and things like that, but the product still looked pretty good. The Super Bowl, we'll get to that in a second. But great season, man. Great season.
Outstanding season. It's, you know, when this whole thing started, I was just saying to myself, I'll be happy if we can make the 12-game mark. Because when you get 12 games in, then at least we could kind of have a breakdown of a season and a postseason that would be, it still have an asterisk beside it, but still it would be a season. So to be able to play all 17 weeks, man, outstanding. Great job by the NFL.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope all the other major sports are looking at that. They're calling Goodell and his people to really kind of see some of their best practices because, you know, even though people are being vaccinated and things like that, COVID isn't going anywhere. Yes, we're going to be vaccinated, but it's going to be just like not minimized like the flu, but it's going to be like the flu, something that keeps coming up. Hopefully we'll have a vaccine for it, but now it's going to be something that people have to be more in tune with and aware of. So the NFL showed what life after COVID can look like, and hopefully the other major sports will do, because at the end of the day, we all needed that. We all needed the NFL to be able to do that. We all needed the Super Bowl. You know, I mean, you know, speaking of the Super Bowl, let's get with it.
Hold on. Before we get to the Super Bowl, I just want to kind of touch on the points that you just now brought up, which were excellent. NFL modeled what this thing should be like. Yeah. And other leagues need to take notice. That kind of struck me, and I know we're kind of going to go off of NFL for just a little bit.
Let's do it.
But the NBA.
Yep.
Is this really the All-Star game? I mean, what's the purpose? Well, we know what the true purpose is. It's money, of course. It's money-driven. But is it really necessary? We're talking about holding an NBA All-Star game in Atlanta and without the same restrictions that are going on in the regular season. You're going to put your best athletes on a plane for one, send them down to Atlanta for two, and then turn them loose on the streets for three. What are you thinking?
That makes no sense to me.
Zero. The NFL canceled their Pro Bowl. Smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Why? Why risk it if you don't have
to? Exactly.
This makes no sense to me, but, you know, bottom line, like I was saying.
And, you know, at least with the NFL, but here's the difference. At least with the NFL, the Pro Bowl is at the end of the year. Right. And these are players that aren't going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
NBA's All-Star game happens mid-season.
And you're putting your best players in.
And it's your best players that are contending for playoff spots.
Dumb, man. It is the dumbest thing I've heard of. Why they want to do this. Is the money really that necessary? I guess they're trying to make up for lost revenue from last year, but come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, what All-Star game have you ever seen that was predicated with defense and game plans?
Yeah, the score for this one might be 250 to 248.
Yeah, because as soon as you get close to him, go ahead.
Yup, Olay.
Dunk it.
hell out the way.
Don't cough on me.
Nah. I saw you out at the club last
Right.
night.
Yeah, you was over there with my man Dwayne Haskins making it rain.
Right? And you didn't have a mask on, you bastard.
Oh God. One more dig at Dwayne Haskins. I had to do it. Speaking of which, are your guys gonna sign him?
I think we have signed up for a year.
He's already signed?
That's official, man. I know. I kind of just shook my head at it too, but and we'll get to this because I want to talk about some of the off-season things that's going to happen with some of
Okay,
these teams like Pittsburgh, Carolina.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, I don't even care anymore. I just don't even care.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna definitely get to that. So let's wrap up the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know you saw that, I put out my little recap of our first show.
That was an outstanding call, brother. That was an outstanding call.
I'm sitting there, and I was telling my wife, I said, we were watching the Super Bowl at my brother's house. And I said, I called this game. And my brother looked at me like, no, you didn't. I'm like, oh, yeah, I did. And so I had to go get the tape. Because, nowadays, what the youngins say, you got to have receipts. I said, I got some receipts. So I went back and found that footage, and I said, Lord have mercy. I ain't never been that prophetic about anything in my life.
That, folks out there watching, that was before a single down took place in the NFL.
in the world of COVID.
Right.
And it really, the ending happened, but how it got to be was really surreal, because to think about, it was the Kansas City game that Tampa played that really turned everything around. They lost that game. Tyreek Hill sat there and made them look bad, because at first I was like, why is dude getting a taunting penalty? And I remember Tyreek backflipped into the end zone on him.
Oh, man. Perfect point.
So you got to be careful, because karma is a mother.
Perfect point,
and then now in the Super Bowl, then Tyreek Hill ends up with 73 receptions for 7 receptions for 73 yards. So for a guy like Tyreek Hill, that's like holding him to 2 receptions of 16 yards, because he can do that on one play if you let him. So
I was going to make that exact same point, man, because it's like they played earlier in the year, and I want to say that was a nationally televised game. I want to say it was primetime.
Yeah.
And Kansas City jumped up 20-0, started embarrassing them. Tyreek went absolutely bananas, like 13 catches for 270 yards.
And not only did he backflip into the end zone, he stopped at the 1-yard line and backflipped in.
Yeah, and he got most of those yards like in the first half.
Yeah.
So just dominated the defense. So Tampa, from that point on, if you remember, the final score of that game was 27-24. So after Tampa figured things out in that particular game, I mean, it was 24-7 Tampa Bay the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Now, Kansas City jumped up again early, 20-0. But after that 20-0 head start and all that embarrassment that took place, Tampa figured them out and really outplayed them down the stretch, and took that game, what they did in the second half, and I'm thinking made a game plan based off of that.
They did. They really did. And the defense didn't click like I saw them click last year. I knew their defense was good. I mean, you got Devontae, you got Sue, you got all those guys that came back, and I'm like, they were pretty good last year.
Yes,
but they came out a little slow, and it was a mixture of a lot of things. And Brady and his receivers getting off to a slow start because they didn't have that all season to work with each other, the timing where they liked the ball and stuff like that. When you got some guys like Godwin and Mike Evans, man, my God, you are infinitely better to begin with. Then when you add even Brake came up in this game, then of course Gronk doing what Gronk does. Gronk came out of retirement after 2 years, and he still can play. I mean,
Picked up the pieces in the big game.
Fournette, I mean, when he came from Jacksonville, I was like, is he going to be the Fournette of old? Fournette played some of his best football at the end. Ronald Jones played some of his best football at the end. When I look at this, Tom Brady had 3, 6, 10 different receivers in this. Well, I'm sorry, he had 10 different receivers targeted. 6 of them caught passes. But still, he had a lot of options out there. That was one of the things. The other thing, though, going back to the defense, was Patrick Mahomes was not allowed to survey that field. He was running for his freaking life the whole game.
29 quarterback pressures. 29. They said that he scrambled for 500 yards in that game. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's a reputable source.
It's probably close. Yes, it's probably close. Thank you. Yeah, it's probably because he went backwards a lot. And he ran actually for 33 yards forward. But there's a lot of times when he ran backwards because they were bringing up pressure up the middle. They were doing a lot of safety blitzes off the edge.
It was a beautiful defensive scheme that they put down on, and that thing was just awesome. Yeah. They started the first quarter, the first couple of drives, by double teaming Hill and Kelsey. 2 men on both of them. Now, of course, you can't take a whole game and do that. I think they started the game in a 2-4-5 set, a really unconventional defensive set.
That is.
But they took those 2 safeties and they played deep coverage the entire game. Matter of fact, it wasn't too many NFL records set for this game, but one of them was that the 2 deep safeties playing back as many plays as they did was an NFL record. That had never been done before. Point of that is, Hill, we ain't looking at no deuces for this game. We're not going to see that for this game.
Yeah.
We'll give you all that underneath crap, but we're taking those deep passes away from you. And that's exactly what they did for the first quarter. Now, after a while, they started singling up Kelsey and letting him do whatever he wants. But we've had this conversation before. You can't do nothing with Kelsey. No way. He's too fast for a linebacker, too big for a safety or whoever corner that you want to put on him. So he's going to get his. But after that line started breaking down that offensive line and getting them boys tired and them tackles started huffing and puffing for oxygen, it was a wrap. It was a wrap.
And if you got to pick your poison, you're going to let the tight end get all of that stuff in the middle of the field because you have the ability to converge on him, so he doesn't get a lot of yards after the catch.
Yeah.
If you let Tyreek Hill get loose,
he gone.
That's 6. So am I gonna let him accumulate a lot of yards up and down the field? Sure. He had 133 yards off 10 catches. Now I will say a lot of that came towards the end of the game when they started kind of like you said, they started freeing him up a little bit because at that point you didn't have to wrap him up like that no more.
Yeah. And also at that point, how bad was he really going to hurt you? Because that defensive front was getting to Kelsey. I mean, not Kelsey, was getting to Mahomes within 2 and 3 seconds.
Correct.
Kelsey fast, but he ain't that fast to get down the field in 3 seconds.
I mean, Mahomes, there was one pass where there's no way he could have saw where that was going. He just threw it up, and thankfully, it wasn't picked off. But he did throw 2 picks in this game. He did not throw a touchdown in the game. 3 field goals.
I ain't never seen nobody do that to a Mahomes-led Kansas City. Never.
Yeah, it's been a while since they haven't scored a touchdown in a game.
I'm
They were
telling you.
they were restricted to 3 field goals, and it was just crazy. But I had that feeling that when you give Tom Brady 2 weeks to plan, and you got to remember, he's been around Belichick for 19 years, one of the best coaches to game plan for a specific game, not say that we are a ball-oriented team or we are a defensive-oriented team or whatever. Bill Belichick doesn't define his team by those ways. He looks at who he's playing, and he comes up with a game plan against that team. Because then the following week, it could be a totally different game plan.
Yep.
He plays chess.
Right.
So the way that I beat you playing chess is not going to be the same way I beat somebody else. But then you might get some chess players, they only know one way to play chess.
And Kansas City, go ahead, finish your point. I'm sorry.
No. That's all I'm going to say is that, because he's been around Belichick like that, he's picked that up too, where he can say, you know what? We're going to figure out what's going to work for us, and also take away what works for them best. What makes them special? We're not going to let that make them special in this game. The one thing that makes Kansas City special in games is they jump out on you with them leads.
That's right.
They start crushing you and trying to kill your hopes. Now, the other thing about them, though, is they have a tendency to take the foot off the gas and let you back in. But they kind of remind me, and this is a cross reference, it kind of reminded me of the Duke basketball team. As much as I love, shout out to my Tar Heels for taking care of the garbage. But it reminds me of Duke basketball. Duke basketball was always intimidating because they would jump out on these 20-point leads on you and take away all your hope. But the one thing that I noticed one season with them was they were not used to playing from behind. They did not know how to play from behind because they always had a lead. So until you know how to play from behind and overcome early mistakes, sometimes that will end up catching up with you too.
Yep, I'm going to touch on a couple of those points that you just made. Number one, about the getting out to a lead. That is completely true. Mahomes this year has only trailed twice.
Wow.
Twice. Crazy stat. 2 times he's trailed this whole entire season. So you're right. It really showed when they got behind that they didn't know how to get back in the game, nor did they have the patience to get back in the game. The other point I was going to make on that is you were talking about the brilliance of Brady and beating you in multiple ways. He might come out and pass 40 times this time, but then turn around and have a conservative 20-game approach the next game for another team. As great as Kansas City is, as great as Andy Reid is, and as great as Mahomes is as well, in order for Kansas City to reach that former New England dominance, they're going to have to learn to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Right now, they are so foot on the gas, pass, that they don't realize what they got in the run game.
Right.
We started this season talking about my boy, Clyde.
It was hilarious.
Had a hell of a game to start the year. 134 yards on Monday night or Thursday night, whatever it was. I was looking at the stats before we got on here. He ain't even finished with a 1,000-yard season.
Wow.
He averaged 4.4 yards a carry, the best on the team. Now, how many yards per carry did he average in this Super Bowl?
I can
look it up. I got it for you.
Okay.
7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
7 yards a carry.
That's unheard of.
Yeah, but he didn't get the ball.
Right. He only had 9 carries.
9 carries.
The man giving you 7 a carry, but you only found 9 opportunities?
Yeah. Now, when this defensive line is caving in your tackles like it was doing on a routine and regular basis, you got to find ways to make them boys respect the run. But you can't do that if you don't give your best running option the freaking ball. You got to have that patience for the run game to get back in it and then you can start passing. In my opinion, Kansas City could have made this a game early on. Now I know you got people bitching out there about their calls. You know, you're gonna have bad calls in every freaking game, but
Yeah.
those bad calls are not gonna be responsible for the final score that we saw. But Kansas City has got to have patience to get back in the games using the run.
Well, Matthew didn't do himself no favors because there was a couple of times when he did give a couple extra little tugs on them jerseys.
Oh yeah.
But he does that all the time.
Yeah.
And he gets caught a lot. He does. But and he gets, and I know he toned it down from the Honey Badger days and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the referees know that Tyrann Mathieu is out on the field and they looking at you. And then you like to get in the ref's face too much. Don't do that. Be invisible. Don't have them look at you. Because they're gonna be really looking at you. Oh yeah. But Kansas City though, I'm sorry, cut you off.
Huh?
But they lucky because they held a lot. Mahomes got buried and hit a lot, but they did. I mean, I saw some holes above the neck that didn't get caught.
Thank you. And that's what I was getting ready to say. I saw, I've been hearing all week, all the Kansas City fans talking about the calls and complaining about the calls, and even some Kansas City fans or Brady haters complaining about the calls. I mean, I didn't have an issue with the calls, man. I didn't. There was one that was really questionable. And we're talking about the one where Brady threw the ball to the back of the stands, and they called it a pass interference and put the ball on the one. Okay, I'll give you that.
I give him that too, because I said only Shaquille O'Neal could have caught that ball anyway.
Right. Either that or prime Michael Jordan.
Right.
So
that's true. That's true. I'll give him that. Okay, that's 7.
That's your 7 that you couldn't score.
It's still 22-9.
Thank you.
You ain't gonna find enough calls to get all the points back. I'm sorry.
No, sir. No, sir. That just really gets on my nerves, man. And the other thing that gets on my nerves is people talking about Super Bowls being fixed. Come on, people.
Yeah.
I mean, can you have referees that can affect the game? Yeah, we saw that in the Denver-Carolina game. Definitely. But for the NFL to put a fix on, who in their right mind believes that can truly happen? Right.
I don't think any of those guys would sit there and give up the Super Bowl like that.
Absolutely.
On purpose. Ain't happy.
You think Kelsey, as big of a competitor as he is, Mahomes is a big competitor, and as badly as he wanted that game for his legacy and to be the first team to repeat in some 15, 16 years, they're going to get a memo from the NFL that says you guys must go out and lose today, and they're going to roll over and accept that for what? For what amount of money? We're talking millionaires. Why would they do that?
And I mean, you would have to convince a whole lot of them to agree to it for that to really work that way. It's a lot of guys out there that would have to have that same understanding, walking around and just them out.
That's a bunch of guys on the same page. Boxers, there's only 2 of them, so somebody can take a dive.
Exactly.
NBA would be harder because you got 5-on-5 and a coaching staff.
Right.
NFL fixing a game with over 50 players on the sidelines, another 25 so coaching staffs, because they got to be in on this fix too.
Mm-hmm.
So you really think, people, that that's going to happen without a shred of evidence in this age of technology?
Yeah. These people just have to learn how to take an L. Just learn how to take an L. It's an L. It's just an L. That's all.
It's absolutely not. No.
The thing though that I loved about Tampa's game plan, and major props to Marshall quarterback, NBA quarterback, Mr. Byron Leftwich.
Yeah.
He
former Steeler.
Yep. You were talking about the run. And the thing about Tampa is that they had 28 rushes for 150 yards or so. And the thing is that they used the run to set up the play action.
There you go.
And that's what you want. When your running back can give you 3-4 yards on those first downs or those second downs and move the chains. So now you're in the third and short. You got the whole playbook.
Yep.
They don't know if you're going to hand it off or if you, because with the play action, the cool thing about play action is you're under center.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know what you're going to do. Now, if you're in the shotgun, okay, it's less likely. But they know if you're under center, they don't know if you're handing it off, you keeping the ball. So now you can fake the handoff and do the play action. And that's when Godwin and Brait and Evans started getting buck wild and loose on them. And even AB. AB done caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. It was a wrap.
I want to talk about AB.
Well, he was on his best behavior. You know, I ain't saying how long it's gonna last because it's only Wednesday. But but for right now, I mean, he played as a teammate. He didn't. The game wasn't about him. So he sat there and blended in too. To see Brady and Gronk hook up twice.
There you go.
Oh my God.
That's what I was gonna get to. We right here with this show about what did we talk about earlier in the year when we were talking about chain movers on third down?
Yep.
When Brady was in New England, who was his chain mover?
That was a safety valve every time. Gronk. You knew when it was 3rd and 6, that was going to be Gronk's play.
Yep. So with all this play action, you know, they come out running the ball. They set the they set the tone with the run, and now you can play action. Who benefited the most off that play action? Gronk.
Yeah, even with the screens, which I was wondering, where were the screens early on in the year for them? Because that's how Brady made his bread and butter in New England. James White, run a screen. He sit there in the backfield. Next thing you know, he's off to the side with a screen. And then then he would make somebody miss and get further down the field for 8-9 yards. Mm-hmm. That was his bread and butter in New England.
Yeah. And Ronald Jones, as the year went on, he got better and better at that. The other running back, what's his name?
Ronald Jones.
Besides Ronald Jones.
Fournette.
He got better and better with coming out the backfield and catching passes as the season went on. So, you know, David just became a well-oiled machine as time went on throughout the season. Now, they had to work out the kinks, like you were saying, and it took them some time to do that because they didn't have preseason and all that. But once they got gelled, man, especially that defense, again, I ain't never seen nobody do that to Kansas City.
And they had to double team Sue. And if you double team Sue, then you got JPP putting up pressure. Then you had Devontae putting up pressure. I was like, pick your poison. All of them dudes can rush the quarterback. So
that game was over in the third quarter when Kansas City came out and didn't score. It was over.
all I could say was, poor Mike Rimmers. At the scene of another crime. Oh, bro.
I hope he don't play in another Super Bowl. Not for my team.
He can get to the Super Bowl, but when he get there,
turnstile.
He's the matador.
Right.
Come on through. I am Swiss cheese.
They don't pay me enough to be in your league.
Well, so anyway, I was wondering this, and I guess we won't know for a couple of weeks, and we got some time. I mean, the new NFL season does start in about 40 days, 45 days. You know, I kept saying that Brady has something to prove because for 19 years he's been linked with the Patriots and, more importantly, Bill Belichick. So to say who changed the trajectory in New England more, was it the coach or was it the quarterback, was always going to be a question. If Brady had retired a Patriot, that would have always haunted who, and it can still be up for debate, but who was more valuable? Was it the quarterback? Was he playing in a system that if you if you put Garoppolo in, if you put Matt Castle in, would they have the same level of success? Or was Tom Brady, and then people wanted to know this because they really wanted to figure out, is Tom Brady really the GOAT?
Yeah, he is. He is.
I mean, how many other 43-year-old quarterbacks come to a brand new team after being on one team for 19 years? First season there, takes his team to the Super Bowl. Not only takes them to the Super Bowl, wins Super Bowl for the first time. I mean, for the second time in franchise history.
That would be zero. You know, I saw some chatter in the water cooler this week talking about Peyton Manning. I mean, I don't want to hear that Peyton Manning stuff.
Nah, ain't no comparison.
Peyton Manning was 38 years old, and that arm was gone, shot.
Yeah.
Kaput.
Yeah, Peyton didn't win the Super Bowl. He didn't lose it.
Right. Thank you.
You know, Peyton did not win. Anybody watched that game knew that he was on a team that had such a great defense that he did not have to do a whole lot. And of course, they gave him all the accolades and everything so they could send the sheriff out on a high note and everything. And we all get that. That's the politics of the game. But if anybody with half a brain watched that Super Bowl, they knew that Peyton Manning did not do anything spectacular to win that game at all. That was Dumerville. That was Von Miller. That was all them Hall Mollies up front. Everybody doing their thing, and Peyton Manning just happened to be on the center. You know.
And Mike Remmers and the referees.
That too. That can't hurt. That can't hurt. So no, I truly believe he's the GOAT. But now, is he coming back?
Man, you and I both agreed last week that he should ride off into the sunset, but that man ain't done. I mean, I don't know what the motivation is now, but it seems to me he's coming back. It's also interesting that you said about the whole connection to Belichick and which one made which one great. I think the whole world want the answer to that question.
Yeah.
I thought it was like really crazy to me when I was looking at the ratings of this year's Super Bowl. Now, people say it was a little down for whatever the reasons. We'll really never know that. But when you start looking across the country at the different areas in which the ratings were great for the Super Bowl, you would think we're talking Tampa Bay. You would think we're talking Kansas City. The number one market was New England.
Wow.
So I think people up in that New England area wanted to know the answer to that as well. And I think they got their answer, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of times when people are more a fan of a certain player than they are a certain team. I found that out firsthand with LeBron James, where it didn't matter what team he ended up on. Oh, he played for the Lakers. Now I'm a Lakers fan. But you used to be a Cavs fan. Well, yeah, but before that, you used to be a Miami Heat fan. Yeah, I know. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute. Are you changing teams because of LeBron? Yeah, I like LeBron.
Cavs jersey the first time.
I'm like, back in the day, if you were a Boston Celtics fan, it didn't matter who played for the Celtics. You rooted for the Celtics.
Yeah.
If Larry Bird had went over to the Lakers, you wouldn't have started rooting for the Lakers.
Hell no.
Boy, you would have been ran out of Massachusetts. Ain't no way in me living hell that would happen. But people do that now. People jock sniff players, and they follow the different teams.
They do, man.
You got a lot of TB12 fans in New England that still root for Tom Brady now that he's in Tampa.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
that makes sense. I've seen that phenomenon more and more and more.
Yep.
I'm not trying to figure out what team Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is on.
I'll give him one of these and another one of these, and I can't.
Good luck, but I'm not rooting for your team, dog. I'm not riding with my Hornets. I'm not rooting for the team that you end up going to after this. As much as I love Kimba, I'm not going to be a Celtics fan. Now, I wish Kimba success,
absolutely,
because I think he's deserved it and stuff like that. But to the point that I'm gonna start rooting for the Celtics to win, so Kimba can be.
Going to get a Boston Celtics Kimber jersey? I
That
don't
ain't
think
gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen because it still say Celtics on the front. I don't care what it say on the
so.
back.
That's
That
right.
ain't happening. Yeah, bump that. But so yeah, I agree with you. He really has nothing left to prove. The one thing I don't want him to do is stay longer than he needs to because I don't want him to then start to diminish his legacy. It's
Exactly.
solidified no matter what. But what we always start to see is, Joe Montana in Kansas. Was it Joe
Uh-huh.
Montana in Kansas City?
You did, yeah.
Was it Emmitt Smith in Kansas City?
The Cardinals, actually.
The Cardinals, that's what it was. So you start to see these players end up on different teams, and by then, it's like when Michael Jordan goes to the Wizards.
Yeah, man.
Well, it was painful. It was just like,
You
okay,
know,
I get it that even at that age, you're probably better than a large chunk of those players, but because we've seen where you've been, it's hard to see you like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like there would have been no greater way, and I tell people this all the time, for Michael Jordan to dance off into the sunset than the game-winning shot of a game, was it 6 or 7, whatever,
Six. It's
against
six.
the Utah Jazz
Yeah.
and another championship, number 6. He should have
Right.
retired, man. Just retired.
That's that because that's the lasting memory. That's what people
Yes.
will see forever. It lives in infamy.
Yeah.
Now they see you in a Wizards jersey, and you can't
He,
jump anymore.
yeah.
You know, they take the air out of Air Jordan. You're just Jordan.
Just Jordan. Probably
you
why them
know,
young bucks didn't
now
listen
your
to him.
logo is on the ground. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man. But I mean, and that's my only thing with him. I know Gronk is talking about coming back now, and I'm sitting there thinking, dang, dude, you took 2 years off. Now you talking about not going back to retirement, and that's great and everything. It's good for the league that Gronk is still doing this thing. I was watching his interview the other day, and he's just hilarious. But yeah, he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. So
Yeah.
now we're running into the off season, which for a lot
Yes,
of
sir.
people can be just as exciting because it's now that time of optimism. Your teams are about to go into drafts. There's going to be free agencies. You can look at what you did wrong in the last season and look at all the pieces that you have. And maybe we're only a quarterback away, Rams, so we get Stafford. Maybe we just need this one other piece or get some younger pieces. Or maybe your team is in a rebuilding mode, and maybe you're starting to think about offloading some off guys, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan. So you can be in a lot of different situations. Let's look at our Carolina Panthers first, since we're both in Carolina. They still have the number 8 pick. They finished the season at 5-11. 5-11.
Yeah.
In which they could have actually finished 8-8 or 9-7 if a couple of games bounced their way, including a Kansas City game.
Absolutely.
So I don't think they're as far away as some people may think they are. I think they have a bright future ahead of them. They're going to be in a division, the AFC, Lord, NFC South, that does have a Super Bowl champion in it. But then when you look at the 2 other teams in the South, Atlanta could be in a rebuilding phase, which they should go ahead and blow it up.
Yeah.
To offload some of that salary and go ahead and start giving some of these young guys a new chance. They're also looking for a coach. And then you got the New Orleans Saints, who may be turning the keys over to Taysom Hill because most people expect Drew Brees in the next couple of weeks to go ahead and call it a career.
Yeah. I am just, March 17th is jotted on my calendar. It is so I can't wait
Yes.
for free agency. It's gonna
Yes.
be bananas, it's gonna be crazy. Starting right here in Carolina. What are we gonna do with that quarterback position? Are we gonna get news that we have landed Deshaun Watson? That would be amazing. And if that does not happen, then what are the other options? I've heard anything from drafting a quarterback to possibly Sam Darnold. Um, yeah, Sam Darnold, an inexpensive option. I've heard that. So it's just going to be amazing when free agency actually starts and to see where this thing is going to go and how the dominoes fall. It's going to affect everything.
Damn, I mean, how do you go from Deshaun Watson to Sam Darnold? That's like going from J Lo to Lizzo.
But you know, Deshaun Watson is going to cost you.
I know. Now, on that though, and I've seen this proposition before, but I'm wondering how realistic could it really be? If it really came down to, okay, Carolina, we gonna give you Deshaun, and we like some of these draft picks, but we really want McCaffrey too. Could they really do that? Could they really say goodbye to McCaffrey?
I would absolutely trade McCaffrey.
Because I see running backs are really more of a dime a dozen, and what normally happens is once you pay them, which we have paid them, they don't normally live up to the money you pay them.
Yeah.
I.e. Zeke. They're all right, but they're a lot of times it's blocky schemes and stuff like that. So if you have at least a decent back, you can make it through. But your quarterback, you're talking about that franchise position, can be a once in a 10-year player.
Got that right.
So do you get rid of your feature back for a transitional franchise quarterback?
I'd do it in a heartbeat. Kamara, one of the best running backs in the game. He's a 3rd round pick. So you could find him. You could find that talent in the 3rd round, find it in the 4th round for running backs. You can.
As much as I love him, I agree with you. And the first time I heard it, I was a strong, oh, hell no. And then when you're loving your players and stuff like that, you're not thinking rationally and logically. And there's two types of ways you look at your team and seasons: long run, short run. For the long run, investing in a franchise quarterback outlives the fact that you gave up Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just that, he's done, and I don't want to turn into Marty Herney, that you start rewarding players for their commitment and their loyalty and stuff like that, and you got blinders on, and you don't realize when you need to make a better deal to keep your team going and stuff like that. So just putting it out there, Houston, if you're listening, I know y'all watch the show. We'll give you McCaffrey if Deshaun is coming. Yep. If we don't have to give up 1st round picks.
And I'm not saying that Carolina should take the Watson route. I mean, we've talked about this before too. If it was me personally and I had a choice, I think I'd roll the dice with the draft pick.
I would too.
Save all of my future draft picks and keep
my money. Yeah.
In-house, because we got some good young players. But
I agree.
Every time I pick up something to read with the teams that are in pursuit of Deshaun Watson, Carolina is always right there in the mix, 1, 2, or 3 of the top 3 or 4 teams that are actively pursuing this guy. So, it just seems to me it's a strong, I won't say it's strong, but a definite possibility that
they got the advantage of the market that they're in. And proximity to home,
right?
Playing in front of Clemson fans, and God knows there's a whole lot of Carolina fans in Charlotte. There's a whole lot of Clemson fans in Charlotte.
Man, that stadium they would never have to worry about it being sold out.
Oh God, there'd be so many Watson jerseys all over the place, and some of them wear their Watson Clemson jerseys to the game. I can see it.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Yeah, oh yeah, and that's what and it would be an instant generator. He'd come to a place where the whole state would love him, both states. That unifies North and South Carolina. So you have your North Carolina fans showing up, you got your South Carolina fans showing up. I mean, it makes so much sense that you think it would happen, but of course we know that there's other things that can come into play and everything. So, but I do agree with you that he did get that increase. So you're paying a guy $40 million a year. So you better hit right. if you get a rookie and you're paying them a cap-friendly salary, $6 million or something like that, I don't even know if it's that much, then they have, 4 years to prove to you you need to pick up that fifth option. And in that, when you pick up that option, normally you give them their extension.
Yeah.
So they have to prove that. And because there's not a whole lot of pressure on the Panthers, nobody's saying that you're a quarterback away from going to the Super Bowl. See, the
Yeah.
Rams had a little bit more pressure to go ahead and get that now guy, and they think that's Stafford. Carolina ain't in that position to get that now guy. They can go ahead and get that rook that they can go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to take the Tua route. We're going to let you sit maybe the first 5 games, because that really worked for Miami. I was really impressed with Tua as the season went on. And, maybe we bring in Fitzpatrick and let him run for about 5-6 weeks, or Josh McCown, and bring him in, and then let the rook come in and clean up and, give us a good season. So you're right. And then that way you don't have to worry about getting rid of McCaffrey. You don't have to worry about getting rid of a bunch of draft picks. You can pick up some strong free agents and try to make it work that way too. I just don't want them to pick up some free agents that are like Gerald McCoy on his last leg. I like Gerald, but these guys, you pick them up, but they've already done what they're gonna do in the league.
That's
now they're just playing for the best veteran minimum and all that kind of stuff you can get them for. Maybe good in the in the locker room, in the team meetings and stuff like that, but it doesn't really translate a whole lot on the field,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be amazing to see which way this thing goes as far as quarterback for the Panthers, because like we were saying, it's going to trigger everything else that they do from that point on.
What are your Steelers doing? as he gets ready to drink something, I don't want you to spit it out. It's all right. Yeah.
Oh man, so I guess it's looking like Roethlisberger's coming back. He's going to restructure his money so that they don't owe him that 41. It's going to look like maybe 20 that it's going to be freed up or something like that. That's what they're working on now. So apparently all is pointing to Ben Roethlisberger playing his final season in Pittsburgh next year. As far as what they're going to do in the draft with Roethlisberger coming back, they got one or two things that I think they should do. Either go Trask, which is a quarterback out of Florida, first round, or they should go the running back out of Alabama, who's dynamic back. He can catch out the backfield, powerful guy, run in the middle, run around the outside.
Yeah, he just won the Heisman, right?
What's his name? Yeah, I am forgetting. I can't remember his name, but
what was it? It wasn't Waddle, was it?
No.
Najee Harris.
There you go, Harris.
Yeah.
So that would be my two picks, either Harris or Trask. Trask to be the future of the organization after Big Ben finally hangs it up, or Harris to replace James Conner, who's probably going to leave in free agency. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a free agent as well. Don't really know if we can afford to keep him, if they're going to keep him, what they're going to do with him. They also got Bud Dupree, who's the opposite end of J. Watt to take care of. So it does not look like Pittsburgh is going to have the money to keep all these pieces. So I'm probably looking at Bud Dupree taking a walk, Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't care what he does, come back or take a walk. Big Ben will be back. That defense will probably still be there for next year. So would
you take J.J. Watt if he wanted to come?
If it could be worked out, yeah. He's still got some juice in the tank. I don't think he has starter juice left in the tank, especially not with the boys that are on the defensive line that Pittsburgh
But
has.
if they put him in a rotation, brought him in.
Rotation, yeah, I'd be cool with that. But Pittsburgh's got a lot of holes to fill this season and not a lot of money to do it. That offensive line is in trouble. It's need to be repaired, especially if we're talking about Mike Pouncey retiring, the center.
Right.
It's going to be a huge, huge hole to fill. So it's going to be interesting to see how Pittsburgh makes these moves in the offseason. But regardless of all of that, I really think we're looking at a 8-8 season for Pittsburgh next year at best. At best.
Even with your receivers?
Yeah, even with the receivers. I just don't see it. I don't see it, man. Got too many holes to fill in prominent positions.
Well, I mean, your most glaring one on the offensive end was just your running game was non-existent. I don't want to say terrible because that's an insult to the word terrible. It was non-existent.
Non-existent.
And I don't know if it was because blocking. I don't know if it's just because of the play calling. It just seemed like they just weren't committed to it.
Yeah, they were not. I think it was a little all of that, along with the offensive coordinator, who's no longer there. Now we got somebody else in that position. Just in my history of this game, all of those important holes to fill and all of that turnover that's going to happen doesn't really translate to getting better. It usually translates to a step back. So
yeah, because I think about when you guys had like Hines Ward and AB and some of these other receivers, what made them really great is you couldn't double them because you could run the ball so good.
Oh yeah.
So you had to pick your poison. You know, you had to figure out who's going to beat you that week because you are a threat everywhere. Yeah. But when you become a one-dimensional team like that, yeah, Claypool can be good as he wants, and Schuster can do his thing, Washington can do his thing. But if they don't respect the fact that you can run the ball, they can negate what those guys can do. Plus, if they can put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, a lot of those guys are long ball catchers. Now, unless you start turning them into slot receivers, but then that's what you should really use your tight end for a lot of times, so you can get your big play guys out in space. But if Ben's having to get rid of the ball, 2-step drop, 3-step drop, Claypool ain't going to do a whole lot with that. So, yeah, you're right. You do have a lot of holes. I was just looking it up. Najee Harris is expected to go late in the first round. I'm a little surprised about that. I thought he'd maybe be a mid-first rounder with most of the higher-ranked quarterbacks going in the first 10 to 12 picks.
He's a running back. You know, running back.
Yeah, like you say. And if people start drafting the running back too early, then you got to pay him all this money.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he'll be available to us, I'm sure.
That's crazy.
So that's the route that I would go. That's the route that I would go.
So you're going to probably start to see tackles and linemen go before him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. Well, this league has changed, man.
It has.
Wow.
Big time.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not anymore, man.
Wow. That's crazy. Okay. All right. So he still is going to do that. You know, I thought maybe before the end of this show, we would have had more information about, you know, Drew Brees, because a lot of that stuff is going to start more dominoes. When the March 17th comes, Deshaun Watson is going to put a lot of teams in play one way or the other as far as now they go to the draft. New York Jets are going to have to decide what they're going to do with Darnold. Please keep him. I don't want him in Carolina.
I don't want him either.
Oh, my God. I'm glad somebody got Haskins instead of Carolina. Oh, my – I mean, I know who got it.
Yeah, but not my boys. God.
Oh, my gosh. I saw where Taylor Heineke got re-signed to the Washington football team. So I guess that's going to put Alex Smith, who won the Comeback Player of the Year. Congratulations, Alex. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Is Washington going to keep him? Or are they going to give what's his name? Another chance at quarterback?
Oh, Heineke, Taylor Heineke?
No, the one that was in Carolina.
Kyle Allen?
Kyle Allen. He's probably done, right?
Nah, he's still there.
You think? Yeah, but you think they're gonna keep him?
I do.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. He's inexpensive.
Because yeah, that's true. Because Washington drafts number 19, so they're not really going to be in the running for a quarterback unless somehow they trade up, and they'd have to trade up a lot to
Big
jump
time.
past a lot of other teams. So, good luck with that. But yeah, it's all in all, it's going to be a great off season, like you said. I think you said it's going to be nuts, bonkers, all of that combined. And hopefully our teams, the Panthers, the Steelers, can be really big players. I know the Steelers, like you said, are restricted with some money, but maybe they can do some creative things to at least help improve their team. Because if you ain't moving forward, then you look going behind. Baltimore done tasted some victory. They got some things that they need to do. Cleveland done tasted some victory. So there's a lot of teams in that AFC. Buffalo, they're going to be hungry next year. So even though Pittsburgh gave a nice 11-0 start and didn't finish the deal, these other teams are a lot further ahead as far as what they currently have.
A
So we
lot
don't want
younger.
to, yeah, a lot younger. So we don't want to see it where Pittsburgh, okay, you win the AFC North, and then next thing you know, you sell the dwellers or something. So definitely don't want to see that happen to that good of a franchise. But they got to get better quickly because these other teams are right there on their tails, if not already ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But we're gonna wrap up, I guess, our final show, our 22nd show of the season. It has been a pleasure, sir. You've ridden with me all of these shows. We've gotten our predictions in, reviewing these games. It has been a fun ride. There is no doubt that we're going to do it again. May even have some more guests and other folks be able to come in and give us some of their predictions. I'd love to try to find fans of different teams to kind of come in and give us, their take on their teams and stuff like that, and what they're hearing in their different markets and stuff like that, just to kind of give us a different little flavor every now and then. But it's definitely been a hell of a ride. I do appreciate everything that you've done, the time, the sacrifice to be able to do it. And the shows are always available on our Roku channel on demand, and they're also available on our YouTube channel on demand as well. So you can view it anywhere. And hopefully by this time next year, we'll also be on either Amazon Fire, or I'm also looking at Apple TV or Google TV as well.
What an awesome year, Mr. Parker, for the invitation. Appreciate you, brother. This thing flowed. This thing between us flowed. And I cannot wait to get back in this seat again come September and start talking some more football predictions. I owe you one. I don't think I the thing called you did. Amazing.
Yeah. Now I don't, lightning don't normally strike twice. So anybody watching, do not expect me to give you a prediction and then you go to Vegas and put some money on it. Don't do that to me. And then you get mad when, it's like Jacksonville and, San Francisco in the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. But yes, it's been great. We're probably going to come back up in August so that we can at least catch some of the preseason, provided there's going to be a preseason. That'll give us a chance to kind of talk about the draft, talk about some of the teams, hopefully the training camp. I want to get past training camp a little bit because hopefully we'll start to see what the real rosters are going to start to look like, players and everything else, team, all that. Free agency will be settled by then. If Houston hadn't done anything, there's going to be a holdout.
Yeah.
So, there'll definitely be some things that we'll be able to talk about in August. But to all our listeners out there, we really appreciate you. Again, thanks to my co-host, Mr. Randall Hargrove, for making the show definitely better. And we look forward to seeing you all next season. Stay tuned.
Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Been a pleasure.
Yes, sir.